episode of Off the Record Live. I'm your host, Lisa Kanicki for American Songwriter, and we are coming to you live from Art House Entertainment here in East Nashville. And I'm so happy to introduce our guest today, the talented Mariah DioGuardi. How are you?
I'm great.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh my God, I'm so excited to hear it. And I'm excited we're doing it like this.
Yes, we're very casual today.
It is. I feel like we're going to sing Kumbaya in a minute.
I normally like to have a bottle of wine for my interviews, but I thought it
do?
was too early. I didn't know if you would partake in the...
Yeah, the wine, I had a martini last night, so I'm still trying to...
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to
still
get
trying to get it out of your system?
Yeah, exactly. My hands are swollen as we speak from the
so
salt.
it's a good thing I didn't bring the wine.
No wine, but later.
Okay, perfect.
Maybe later.
Done. So you guys out there, just wanted to let you know, you guys who are tuning in, you can ask questions of Kara as well. We have a comment section there. We've got Catherine, our moderator. She'll take your questions, type them in the comments section, and she'll get them over to us, and we'll try and ask to Kara throughout the hour. We do have you for an hour. So.
Yeah, I have to say, this is a very professional operation going on here. I mean,
good. We fooled her, guys.
You really are good. Usually it's like me to an iPhone, and I'm like, I can't see. Am I live? Is it? Okay, I think I'm live. Hi, everyone. Oh, whoa. You know, I mean, that's...
We can do that next time.
Okay,
we can
yeah.
plan that, just to make you feel comfortable.
I can learn some stuff here. I mean, if I'll teach the songwriting, and you can teach me how to actually have a legit operation like this.
Yeah, we do have quite a crew today, too.
It is.
I think you get special treatment.
I like that.
Yeah,
good.
we're good here. So we're going to talk to Kara about songwriting. We'll talk about your career, go through all your music and all that stuff, because she's done it all, everybody. We have a professional here today, and we're going to get to the bottom of it all. So you're ready.
Yeah, I actually can't believe I have done it all.
You have
and I've survived.
Literally done it all.
And I've literally survived.
And been successful in every area.
Well, there have been some moments where I was like, what's going on here? I'm not sure I know what I'm doing. But, you know, that's part of being in the music industry. Is I think you just have to act as if, almost, until you know what you're doing.
Right.
And I started out, I remember the first time I produced vocals. You know, I'd never produced anybody's vocals but my own.
Right.
But when that opportunity came along with, you know, it was Enrique Iglesias, I was like, yeah, of course I can do it. No problem.
Some first person to produce on, huh?
Yeah, it was either me or the producer I was working with, who was busy going to the strip joints. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to have to do this.
It's going to be you. Yeah.
It's going to be me, because I'm not going to the strip joints. I'm going to actually try to stay here and get some work done. So yeah, I learned under fire, but, you know, I think that's really, if I had to look back at my career, I would say I was pushed into areas that were very uncomfortable, and I just sort of figured out what I needed to do and did it.
Right.
And as I did it, I got better at it.
You learned more.
Yeah.
So before we get into talking about your career in songwriting, it is Women's History Month this month, March.
Yes, I
so
know.
we are
Awesome.
celebrating women across the industry. So is there a female artist that you were influenced by, or artist, songwriter, producer, any female person in your life that influenced your career and inspired you, and why? Why do you admire them?
You know, there were so many women artists that affected me growing up, you know, that I felt like I could listen to their music, whether it was, you know, anyone from Aretha Franklin to even, you know, artists like Doris Day, who my parents used to listen to. You know, they were so conservative, and so the kind of music that I listened to growing up was more Broadway, and, you know, definitely influenced the way that I wrote songs, because the structure was there. You know, it was these beautifully written kind of Broadway songs that followed a storyline and helped me kind of see, you know, how a great song was constructed. But what I loved were artists like the Arethas of the world, and, you know, even the Whitney Houstons, that I could feel their pain and their joy when they sang, and that's what I was drawn to. So for me, what I always felt connected to with women artists, and the ones that I loved, was their ability to really emote, and that is still to this day what draws me to a writer or an artist. And I mean, I know men and women emote in different ways, but there was something about the way a woman can share their joy or pain in their music that really helped me kind of access my own. And, you know, as funny as it seems, Mariah Carey was a huge influence because she wrote similar to the way I did, which is I didn't really play chords. I mean, I can play, but she wrote sort of about her life and in sort of the room would create a melody or a lyric. And that's sort of how I started to write, because I wasn't somebody who was proficient in any one instrument. So I almost would get in a room with someone who was and have that music inspire me, you know, whether the music felt sad or it felt uplifting, and then that would almost indicate what kind of a lyric or what kind of a melody I was going to use. So, I mean, there have been so many incredible women who have really affected me. I mean, even coming up, there weren't a lot of women songwriters. There was Diane Warren and there was Linda Perry, both who were like, I had no access to. And today, things have changed so much. And I think what's important to remember is, as much as we're focused on celebrating women, that when we're in music, we still need to realize that we can also learn and grow a lot by having male co-writers and male producers that we work with. I think that we all bring something special into the room. I'd like to think then men are as emotional as women, and I'd like to think that we could all have the capacity to be those things, but I think that's still at times changing and growing, and I feel like in my class at Berklee, when I put women and men together in a production situation or in a writing situation, I love that they come from different perspectives, and that makes the song even more powerful. So I think that it's important that we really look to both sexes to kind of raise each other up and not to do it siloed, like, oh, it should be just all women writing and oh, it should be all men. It's like the more we all can get together in rooms, the more we can really study the human condition and put it out there in a way that's like powerful.
Right. It kind of works better when they both work together.
Yeah, but I'm so thrilled to see a bunch of women producers coming up and women.
More and more so nowadays.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is just because, you know, when I was coming up, I didn't even know what a songwriter was. I thought that the artist wrote the songs. Like, I had no idea.
Right.
I was like, wait, I want to be an artist, so I'm just going to sing a bunch of covers. And the record, you know, industry people were like, no, you have to write your own songs. Right. And I was like, I write my own songs? Like, okay, how do I do that, you know, and who are the songwriters? And today, with all these, you know, Glee and American Idol and The Voice, you know, kids are realizing that, wow, this is something I can actually do. This is like, I don't have to just play soccer or football. I could actually go home in my bedroom and write a song. And I think with the more awareness and the kind of market opening up and the fact that you can release music through so many channels, people are like, I want to do this, you know, so men and women.
You said when you were growing up, you didn't really realize you could be a songwriter. So how did you get into songwriting? How did that start for you? Well, let's first say, you've done your A&R executive, your publisher, your producer, your singer, your songwriter. So which one came first for you? Let's start there.
Well, I realized that I wanted to be what I thought I wanted to be a recording artist. So I thought I wanted to, you know, have records out there and go out and, you know, tour and do all that. And what I realized quickly was, one, that I had to write songs. And, you know, I thought that would be really easy. I just thought, oh, I'll just listen to the radio and I'll, you know, whatever, I'll just make them sound like that. You know, I mean, ridiculous. I'm like 23 years old. I'm actually, when I decided I wanted to be an artist, I was still in college. But when I first wrote my first song, I was probably 23, which is so late. I mean, incredibly late. And just, you know, I didn't know anyone, and I just figured, well, okay, let me follow the structure of the songs on the radio, which was absolutely ridiculous. So, you know, I had to figure it out. And in figuring out how to become an artist and write songs, I also became an A&R and a marketing person and all of these things, which you really have to be in the game today. You have to do a little of everything.
To know the business and to know what's needed.
And you are. I mean, if you're, let's say that you're an artist and you want to put your stuff out in the world. You're releasing it independently, maybe you're on TikTok, so you're a marketing person. You're an A&R person because you're like, who am I going to write with? How am I going to find other people to write with? Right. You are, and that's A&R because, you know, you're discovering other people. So you're doing a lot of different things to get ahead. So I had this skill set. You know, I was a producer because I produced my own vocals. And then it was easy for me to sit in front of someone and say, yeah, that's not emotional enough, or I don't like that, that take, let's do this, because I had done it for myself.
Right.
And so I just, you know, naturally kind of fell into all these roles, and then I used them when I needed to. And when I decided that I didn't want to write as much, like when I decided not to write anymore, I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? And for me, it's been about really discovering other artists. I mean, I had done that when I was writing, because I signed people that I worked with and then would kind of work with them, with other people, and then say, okay, now you guys know each other, go off and write songs.
Right.
But now that I don't write, I'm solely focused on helping young developing artists find their voice and bring it to the market, whether it's in their songs, whether it's in the form of records, whatever form it takes.
Well, you said you were doing that before when writing, so why did you stop songwriting? Why can't you do both? Or you don't want to?
Well, there's only so much time in a day, and the reality is that to write great songs, you have to write every single day. And how could I be in the studio every single day, have a roster, take care of the kids that I work with, find new people? It's just impossible. There aren't that many hours in the day. And I found other things that I believe are scalable and can help a lot of creatives, like Bridge, which we're going to talk about. So I figured, you know, I only have so much time, and I am also, you know, 51 years old, and at a certain point you age out, you know. And people go, oh, well, how can you age out of songwriting? And it's like, well, I aged out. You may not age out, but for me, I did. I was a pop songwriter. And while I can still come up with concepts and maybe dictate certain things, I can't spend 10 hours in the studio every day, like, to get to those moments. It's just, I did it for so many years, and I really don't want to do it anymore. And I think that the message I have to people out there is that creativity, you can be creative in so many different ways. You don't have to just stick to one thing. You know, I've been a songwriter, and now I have to be a songwriter for the rest of my life. That's who I am. I'm scared to leave it because who am I then? And I had to do a lot of work around that for myself, because, you know, when you're at the top of your game, you have a tendency to want to stay or pursue being on the top. But the reality is that you're never on top for the rest of your life. And
True.
It's looking at your life knowing you have this amount of time. You know, you're on this planet for how long, and what other things can you do that are meaningful? Because I just didn't want to be trapped in the thinking that I have to have this level of success for the rest of my life on the charts to feel like I'm cool. You know, I want to do other things. And to me, there's such a joy in bringing talented people who, to some, you know, sometimes I think even more talented than I'll ever be, to market, and watching them flourish and being like, I knew it. Like, I knew it 5 years before everybody else saw it. And I was able to hopefully help that person. And it's, you know, my business too. It's not like I'm a martyr here, but it is, right. It is, I get as much joy out of that as anything. Yeah. So more than the songwriting for me, actually.
Really?
Like, when I see a #1 of one of my people, I'm like, yeah, because you're just so...
That makes you feel better?
Well, yeah, when it's yours, it's almost... For me, it was never really like I couldn't almost attach to it, because it was sort of like, I had one, now I got to get another, you know? But when it's somebody else's, you're almost you're experiencing the joy in a different way. Right. It's almost like you're a mom or a sister or a...
And you're kind of, when you're doing it for yourself, you're kind of chasing it all the time.
Yeah, so and you don't really appreciate it.
Right. So one question that we get asked a lot is, and you kind of touched on this when you said you were a songwriter, you didn't know how to get started, but how do people get introduced to other songwriters? How do they start a band? How do they get into the music community?
Yeah, I mean, I think now is that's an interesting question at this moment, because I do believe the walls are coming down. You know, when I was coming up, it was very hard to access other creators. Right. And now with Zoom and Instagram and the ability to kind of be releasing your own music on TikTok, you can reach out to people. But it's why I really have spent a lot of time on this app that I co-founded called Bridge, which hooks up creatives with other creatives on a platform, and it uses your skill set, your location, and your personality to kind of figure out who you would work with well. And it's basically democratizing the music industry. It's taking those walls down and saying, look, here's a community of other creators. Come on this platform, meet other creators, share your stories, share information, and figure out, you know, you can be discovered here, you can discover other people here, and let's open the floodgates and let every single creator be seen or by other creators, you know, and you guys decide who you want to work with. You decide when you want to work, you know. Maybe you feel like working right now, you have something you want to say. Go online on the app and say, okay, who's up for working right now in my community or the people that I've matched with. And I think that's the future of the music industry. I mean, A&R, publishing A&Rs, there's only so many humans out there that do this. Right. And when you're looking at an algorithm or something that's based in tech, you can give it information and you can have a session and give the information to the algorithm through feedback and then further refine your matches. So while you're sleeping 24/7, the tech is working for you and it's putting out more matches. And there's no human that can do that. I mean, it's right. Impossible. So really that's where we're moving. I mean, not to say we're going to replace human A&R people, but they can't service as many creators that are out there. So that's why I'm really excited about, you know, working on Bridge, because it's scalable and it allows me to do this sort of introducing creatives to creatives on a larger scale.
Right. And so when can people sign up for it or be a part of it?
So we launched a beta earlier this year, and we got a lot of feedback, and we've created this community where people can go, and there's, you know, learning experiences, and we put out, you know, do it yourself Hot 100, write a song. We pick people in the community, and hopefully they're learning from our Instagram lives and all those things. But you can actually download the app in June in its final kind of iteration. It'll be coming out, and we're really excited. It'll be launched live, you know, for everyone, and we were hoping it's going to be June.
See, she really does do it all, people.
June, July, you know, you never know with tech, right? Because it's got to go through a lot of security checks. But the beta was really, really insightful, and we learned a lot. So we're hoping it's going to happen in June and July. But so, you can check it out at Bridge app right now. Okay,
so it's more in depth, really. It pairs people together that kind of have similarities and things that they connect on?
Well, what it does is it asks you a series of psychometric questions, like how do you view the world? What do you like in the room? You know, how do you collaborate? How do you, personal questions, and then it tries to find people based on their skill set and location and that information that you would hopefully be the right kind of collaboration for you. And then after the collaboration, you can privately rate how it went, and then that further refines the algorithm. But on the Instagram, which is Bridge app, we just have this community that we're building of creators who, you know, we talk to and we ask them how they feel about the app or how they feel about songwriting, and we're just trying to be there for them, you know, a support system, because there's so many out there that don't have that support.
That's awesome. So I want to get back to you about your songwriting career and coming up and all that stuff.
Yeah, see, I talk too much. That's the problem.
No, that's great.
I can go on
take
and
all the
on
time you
and
want.
on. Yeah.
Makes my job easier.
Okay.
But you've written hundreds of songs. You've written for Pink, Kelly Clarkson, Carrie Underwood, everybody. Did you ever, another song that we also often get is, did you ever get writer's block? Did you ever get writer's block when you were at the peak? Or
Yeah, I mean, I mostly got writer's block when I was uninspired, when I was burnt out, when I was like putting too much pressure on myself. I mean, when I think back on the time that I was, most prolific, I had a real structure around my day. So I would wake up in the morning, I would do emails with a cup of coffee. I'd like put on my business hat, and then I would leave and go to the gym for like an hour. And I would just kind of like, I wouldn't say that I was hardcore working out, but like I would spend time just inside, like with my body, and then I would go and sit in a room. They had like this sauna. It was in this kind of, this gym in Chinatown in Los Angeles. So it was kind of like, I wouldn't say it was bougie at all, but I would sit with myself and I would just think, what was I feeling? What am I going through? What do I want to write about today? What's something in my past or that's going on right now? And I spent a lot of time with myself, really reflecting on whatever was going on in my life. And then I would build a concept around that. So I had this sort of, routine of spending a lot of time just with my thoughts, and it was kind of like therapy for me. And then I would bring those into the session. I'd say, I'm feeling really like angry because I'm in this relationship and this person's not, respecting me or whatever it was, and that would turn into a song.
Right.
Or I'd be in the room with another writer or artist, and this happened at times too, where they'd say something and it would just spark.
Click.
I'd just like go right off.
Yeah.
But mostly I had anxiety around going into the room with nothing to say. So I spent a lot of time like trying to figure out what I was going to say.
So that's one thing about co-writes is what are some tips or advice with going into co-writes? A lot of people say you have to come in with something prepared.
Well, I think for a new co-write, you want to come in with like, we could write about this, we could write about that, because it takes you off in different directions. I think for co-writing, you want to listen and you want to be open. Those are really important things. It's sort of, I look at co-writing as, if you're at a cocktail party and you walk over to someone and you just start talking all over them, they're kind of like, whoa, who are you? You know what I mean? Right. So it's the same thing with co-writes. It's like you want to walk in and be like, hey, nice to meet you. So you can start out by saying a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and kind of the personal part, right? The just getting that intimacy between you, because what's really going to happen is you're going to have to see, like, can I get naked in front of this person? Right. Like, can I tell them all my fears and joys and sorrows? Because that's where the good songs are. So it's also being respectful that someone's going to share their story with you. And it's a very odd thing because you don't maybe know them. And I'd like to say we're all kind of, we have a code of conduct, as songwriters, where we try to be respectful. I mean, we should be respectful of everyone's stories, but we also know that they're a great commodity for what we do. They're our currency.
Yes. Do you sign NDAs?
Our emotions. Yeah. It's so funny because I would be sitting there at times with artists who would be sharing these things with me, and I was like, this is so bizarre that you're telling me this, because like, what am I supposed to do with this information now? Like, this is, I know I need to forget this. And luckily I have no memory for anything. So it all kind of blurred together. But, that's what happens in the best co-writes, is you're learning things about the human side of who you're working with. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. And actually, I loved when it was uncomfortable. That's when I didn't have writer's block.
That's when you got the best stuff.
Yeah, because I was sort of unnerved and sort of, I was like, wow, oh my gosh, I feel that, and I feel it deeply, and I feel like even if I haven't experienced it, I've experienced something like it, and I can pull from it.
That's amazing. Do you prefer solo writing as opposed to co-writing?
Never. Always loved co-writing.
Yeah.
I think writing a song on your own, I always say it's like the gym, because it's sort of the gym for me. Like, who wants to sit in their bedroom and work out by themselves? that's like hell on earth. Like I need to see someone next to me dying also and being like, oh my God.
Feel their pain.
We can do this. We can do this, you know?
Yes.
I mean, I think there are certain people who love writing solo, and I think that's great. It's just for me, I need that energy. I need that give and take. I need that editor. I need that person to push me. I need that person to call bullshit on me. Like, please, you know, you can go deeper. You can tell me more.
Right.
So for me, I love collaborating.
That's awesome. I want to check in with Catherine, see if we have any questions from our audience.
Yes, we do. We have one from a user called Kat Walthall who wants to know, what is something you found that surprises you or surprises others about the songwriting and production industry?
What have I found that surprises me? I mean, I don't know that it necessarily surprises me, but I think that it's a smaller industry than people know right now. It's like once you become a big producer, everybody's running after you to produce their artists' records. And really, there's such a fine line between before the producer was like well-known and when they are well-known. And that's always surprising to me that it's like, I've been, like, I'll take Pete Nappy for an example, who did the Gale record, ABCD,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been with Pete for years. Pete has definitely grown as a producer, but he's kind of been an amazing producer for a while. And it's like,
Right.
now everybody wants to come and, you
Yes.
know, so I think that's always what surprises me, is that you go from being a producer to a god, like, overnight. I mean, and it's always like, really? Because not a lot happened, I mean, between
nothing's
this
changed.
and that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, back in the beginning there was growth, but he's been pretty solid for a while. So, you know, I guess it's the fact that we have to wait for this level of success
Something to
before
happen.
we can give new people a shot.
Yeah.
It always kind of, it saddens me more than surprises me. It used to surprise me, now it just saddens
Now it
me.
saddens you. Yeah. You see, I
Yeah.
mean, you see it on all sides. You see it on the songwriter side. You
Oh,
see
yeah.
it on the artist side. You know, being in this business for 20-something years, you've seen artists hang around town and trying to make it, and you know they're talented.
Oh, yeah.
They're amazing, but they're playing down on Broadway, and nobody has discovered them. But then one day,
One
all
day.
it takes is one person to discover
I know,
them.
and then they're all like confused. They're like, I don't understand.
Right.
Wait a minute. Hold on. I've been playing the same songs the
Yeah.
whole, and it's sort of like, I know, I told
amazing.
you were awesome. And it's like, then they have to like almost catch up.
Then they can start to believe it.
Exactly.
That they were any good. Any other questions, Catherine?
Yes, we have a few more. So I'll
Okay.
ask this one from Music Fiend 124, who wants to know, what is your favorite and least favorite part about the industry?
Wow.
Or just your favorite?
Let's see. What is my least favorite part about the industry is sort of what we're talking about right now, which is the idea that we don't bet more on early talent,
don't
and we don't
appreciate
support
the young
it, and we
talent.
don't just say like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I understand why we don't. My most favorite part about it is that we really do get to help people.
Change lives.
Yeah. And if you look, you know, there's such a spiritual part to writing music, because you do become the soundtrack of people's lives. You know,
Right.
the fact that you can be there at a wedding, you know, you can be there at a club, and you're really this place where people can listen to your songs and feel. I think it's so important today. You know, we tend to box up so much of what's going on inside, and I think that, especially, you know, with the way the world is really leading to a lot of you know, mental illness. And I think music, the fact that it's helping you access stuff that's going on inside you, is really healthy.
I think the pandemic had a lot to
Yeah.
really brought out the awareness of mental illness.
Oh,
if
I
nothing
mean,
else.
I mean, I could go on a whole topic of that, but I do
Yeah.
believe I think it's what the number one thing that we're fighting in this world right now is that there's just too much of everything, and our brains are not able to process it all. And you know, even today, I woke up and I'm like, oh, I have so much to do, and I felt like almost some anxiety, and I put on just some music, somebody else's music that like sent me stuff, but I was sitting there going, wow, I feel so much calmer because I'm in this moment. Yes. I'm listening to these words. I'm listening. I'm feeling. And I'm thankful for that.
And even if people don't realize it, people that aren't musical or aren't into music, you don't realize the soundtrack of your life and that what music has done for you throughout.
No, exactly.
Throughout your life, even if you're not conscious of it, it soothes.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's really important that our industry gives back to creators in the sense that, you know, when we do contracts for our creators, whether they're songwriters or artists, we do look at the wellness portion of helping these creators, making sure that they have access to funds if they need it. Mm-hmm. For whether it's the gym or therapy or whatever it is, because so much of what we do is going into those, you know, cavernous spaces where we hold our trauma or our joy or whatever it is. So I think a lot about that too.
So speaking of the pandemic, I know it's an awful time, horrible things have happened, but did you find yourself becoming more creative with the time that you were given and being able to take a step back and reassess?
Well, it's strange because, you know, before I lived in where I live now, which is closer to New York City, and I come to Nashville a lot, I lived in Maine. So I had been working, you know, virtually for a long time and sort of finding people through those channels. Right. So the pandemic for me, it more changed, I wouldn't say that it changed a lot of the way I did business. It more, like for a lot of people, prioritized what I want to put my time and energy into. And that for me was when I really was like, I definitely don't want to write songs anymore. Like I'm feeling like, I don't, you know, I love that I'm not worried about getting in a room or doing this or that. I kind of love that I can just focus on something else. Right. And kind of closing that door. You know, I really believe in life, you have to like kind of really shut doors closed. You can't just kind of leave them open. Right. Like if you just slam it. Now that's not to say that if someone came to me and said, you know, hey, I have this idea, can you help me flesh this out? It was a specific thing that I wouldn't look at it. But I'm not going to be like, okay, who am I working with
all
today?
Day,
you know?
Yeah. So is that where Art House came about before or did you create Art House Entertainment before the pandemic?
So I created Art House 20 years ago, and it started out, I mean, actually, the first thing we did was buy a Britney Spears copyright. Like that was the first thing we did. We invested in this Britney.
Good move.
And then we started to administer my songs. And then I got frustrated with a lot of the producers who I worked with because I was doing the production, the vocal production, and a lot of things in the studio, getting the songs placed, all these things, and they were getting paid like twice what I was because they were getting paid on the production and then the song writing. So I was like, you know what? Screw that. I'm going to go out and find some really talented people who nobody knows and just like bring them along on, you know, in the room with me because I was becoming successful. And then I'll co-publish them and I'll introduce them to artists and they can go work with them. And, you know, that's how Art House was born.
Yeah.
And then we, you know, would find people like we found Ari Levine from the Smeezingtons. He wrote all the Bruno Mars songs. And I didn't really write with him. He was just incredible, but we published him and different producers and writers. And this new kind of chapter of Art House, we since I no longer lived in LA, I started looking very, very early at talent, like 18, 19, right out of school or in school, when nobody wanted to, you know, bet on these creatives because they didn't have any cuts. And that's been incredible for me. And I hope it's been incredible for them too, but it's, I
love it. We'll ask them later.
Yeah, exactly, we can ask them later, but I love it. I mean, I found Ingrid Andress through Berkeley Music where I teach in the fall semester. Gail I found at a NSAI and my nonprofit Inspired Nation pop-up.
Gail,
And
who has that huge hit, ABCD.
yeah,
With You.
so it's, John Bellion I found when he was 18, so it's young and just really seeing that they have something to say and believing in it.
And I want to talk more about that. We're just going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with Kara with art. I want to talk more about Art House. We'll talk more about Bridge, and I want to take you through a couple of your songs that you wrote.
Oh boy!
Get
All
the
right.
stories behind them.
The stories. Okay.
We want the in-depth
All right.
secrets.
All right. I did sign a few NDAs, but no, I didn't.
I knew it.
No, I didn't.
We'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome back to Off the Record Live. We're here with Kara DioGuardi. And like I said in the beginning, if you guys want to ask her some questions, just type them in the comments section, and our moderator, Catherine, will get them to us, and we'll ask Kara. We have her now for another 30 minutes. So.
Yeah, and now that you told me that you had Deanna Carter and you're drinking, and like, I think I would have been way more fun with a few drinks than me. But at
We all
9:30,
are.
there's only like
I know.
so much fun I can be.
We were
You know
talking
what I
during
mean?
the break, and I told her in past interviews that we've done for Off the Record Live, I had some wine, and
Yeah.
I was going to bring some for you because I thought we had that bond that we could do that.
We totally could. It's
but
just
it's 9:30 in the morning.
Well, if I didn't have like other things to do after this, I would totally have day
there's
drinking
that,
with you.
yeah.
Like we could totally have. What do they call it?
Day
We could be day drunk.
Yeah, I'm in. I'm
I
in for
mean,
that
next
all
time,
the time.
maybe at the end when we're finished.
Day afternoon.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, drunk afternoon.
Exactly.
Whatever that is, yeah. So but when we left, we were talking about Art House and Gail, and you found Ingrid Andress. So I want to talk to you about that and discovering these types of artists. What do you look for when you're trying to sign somebody?
I love artists who have something to say, and they say it in a way that I've never heard before, and that's what I look for, really. That's, again, it's just who catches your attention.
Right.
Like, it's like, whoa, what did you just say? Oh my God, I've never heard it said that way. Or somebody who, with Ingrid, she just describes her experience in life in a way that is so intimate, and I'm so drawn to it. It's funny, when I don't speak to her for a while and she sends songs, I'm like, oh God, is she back with that guy? Hold on. Like, I can tell.
You can tell.
I just have to listen to the songs and I know exactly what's
Yes.
going on,
Yes.
And that's what I'm drawn to. I don't really love songs that don't say anything, I have a hard time relating to them. Like, I like a good party song, don't get me wrong, but, I'm more drawn to artists who really...
Are relatable.
It's even more than relatable. It's like almost they get naked in their songs. Like, I
Right,
love
okay.
that.
Yep.
And
So are you out scouting for people, or are people sending you songs? How do you...
It happens
you
in
find
so
them?
many different ways. I think when you get known for finding certain types of artists, you find other types of artists like that. And it's not that I'm ever looking for one type of genre, or if it's a woman or a male, or, it's just people who have something to say and they're committed to saying it. And it's not just, to say, oh, I love you in a song, but it's to say it in a way that I've never heard it said.
Right. And you found
That's
that,
what really I look for.
and you found that in both Gail and Ingrid.
Yeah. And John Bellion,
Yes.
and whether, even if you go back in Art House history, like a lot of the people that I signed, they all, I love uniqueness,
Mm-hmm.
It's like my kid, today's 9, and I just looked on, had a FaceTime with him in the morning, and his hair's red now, and he's 9. And
He's
I'm like,
9?
Yeah, he's 9. He goes, can I dye my hair red? And I'm like,
That's awesome.
I mean, I have to let you dye your hair red,
Yeah.
because, if I stop you from going down this path, you may think you have to be like everybody else.
Right.
And the thing is, with artists and songwriters that want to speak their truth in their own way, that's a path you're on. And it's not for everybody.
And you don't want to derail them.
Yeah, because it's a scary path.
Yes.
Because you may say it and people may be like, huh? What the hell did you just say? Or what did you do to your hair? But the more you sort of allow creatives or creative people to be who they are, the more power you give them, I think the more gifts they give to the world.
Yeah. And do you teach this? And you mentioned you taught at Berkeley
Yes.
College of Music. Do you teach this to your? What's
Oh,
the class
my
about?
class is like psychology, man. It's like, give me that song title. Okay, show me how you're going to write it. No, that's bullshit. You're not giving me enough of like, where are the stakes? Like, why do I want to listen to this song?
Are you a tough teacher?
I mean, my students think I'm tough. Yeah, I guess they think, I mean, I don't think I'm tough. I think what I am is, I am your last stop before the music industry for a lot of these kids. Like, they're coming in at their final semester, and I'm like, forget everything you've learned. Like, let's talk about what you're going to face out there. And what you're going to face is a bunch of executives who are listening to your song and saying, have I heard this kind of thing before? Why is this something that I should invest $1 million in to give to my artist for the marketing and for everything else? Or why should I put you in more sessions, right? So it's because your songs tell me something about you, and they are special in that sense, and it's something I haven't heard before, whether it's the production or the lyrics or the melodic kind of cadences, and that's why I'm gonna back you. Right. So it's less about, oh, you use the right chord, or where the ABA rhyme scheme, and more about like, why is this song gonna cut through?
Why are people gonna
And
notice
the only way it's gonna cut through is if you really are putting, you're being as vulnerable as you can, and you are really into telling your story in a very powerful way. And to do that, you better know yourself.
So it's more of a real life class than a
It is
step-by-step instruction what to do.
Exactly, and that's why for co-writing, I always say, co-writing, there's an art to it, and and there is a muscle, and you have to keep doing it to get better at it. And the more you write with other people, the more you understand about yourself, because it's pushing you.
Right.
And hopefully your co-writers are pushing you.
And
And you can't get better playing tennis by yourself.
That's a good
You
point.
have to play with people who are better. I always wanted to be in the room with people that were better than me, because I figured I figured I'd learn something.
Yeah.
I mean, I may want to like throw up because I was so nervous.
Right.
But I always learned something.
Yeah. So speaking of co-writing, I wanted to get into your songs now, and I wanted to
Here we
talk
go.
to you about a couple of the ones that you wrote. A bunch of hits. God, the list was forever. I was going through it, picking out songs. I'm like, this one, this one, this one, this one. And then just give me a story behind the song, an anecdote, anything you remember.
Okay,
lyrics.
anything I remember. There's a few sessions where they got hazy because there was wine involved.
Okay.
But okay.
We can just pass over
Yeah.
those if you want. Okay, first song, Mama's Song by Carrie Underwood.
Mama Song. So that song was written the same day as Undo It. And we wrote both songs in like, I know it's crazy, 5 hours. I'd never met Carrie. We got in a studio, and I had come up with the chorus for Undo It in the shower the morning of, because I told you I would spend a lot of time, maybe bring something in. And I had heard Carrie was a little reticent in the room, like kind of quiet, and quiet for me is a nightmare. Like, as an Italian person, like when there's quiet, it's almost like, oh, what's going on?
Makes
like
you
the
nervous?
world's gonna end, yeah. So I was like, I better come prepared. I better have something to say, when it gets quiet up in there. So I kind of hummed the chorus and like, no, no, and she was like, I really like that. So we wrote that song. And then the guys, Marty Fredrickson and Luke Laird, walked out, and we started talking about our personal relationships. And I was actually getting married, and my mom had passed away years before that, and I was sort of saying how there wasn't a song for the moms, like what's up with the moms? Like they did everything. They they taught us, changed our diapers, not that our fathers didn't, but my mom mostly changed my diapers.
I
And
don't think my dad did back
exactly.
in the day.
And then who taught us the tampon and all the, this stuff, right?
Yep.
I can't even believe I just said that. People are like, ew, gross.
It's part of life.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, what about the song for the moms? And she's like, yeah. And she had just met her now husband, and you could tell she kind of was really into him.
Love.
So we wrote this song, and for me, Mama's Song was like, Mama, you told me to do the right things, and now you have to let your baby fly. So it's like telling your mom that like it's okay, I'm ready. And for me, it meant so much more because my mom was gone, and I was kind of telling my mom like, he's good, you know, this is a good guy. I actually ended up with not most of the guys that you hated. Like this one you would have liked. Like you would have totally vibed with him. And so, yeah, so that was that.
That's amazing. So you opened yourself up to that.
And she did.
Yeah.
And we had this really personal, you know, when you have personal conversations, and the thing is when you're in a studio with someone like a Carrie Underwood or, you know, you're under that pressure, you have to figure out pretty quick. And I mean, as a general rule for anyone who co-writes, like how to access somebody else's like place where they're going to actually start opening up, you know? And I was really, I think that was a gift I had, you know, maybe because people felt like they'd be safe telling me. And I also was, you know, I made them feel like, listen, I got my own shit. Like, I'm definitely got problems, okay? Like, anything you're going to tell me, like, believe me, there's no this is a judgment-free zone. Like, I'm actually into your drama and your trauma because, like, we're actually probably going to then bond.
Doing the same shit. Yep.
You know? So I feel like if you can approach the session that way, not going in feeling like, well, I'm here to prove how great I am. It's like, I'm here to prove almost that I'm as fucked up as the next person, and let's talk about that.
That's a big part of it. I think
you know,
that relaxes the person
that
you're working with. Okay, next song, "Walk Away," Kelly Clarkson.
Oh my God! So this was like a husband. This was like a husband-wife duo, and they had just had a baby, and so like the wife was in the room with like the baby and nursing, and I was sort of like, oh my God, this is so awkward because you're married and then the baby's there and I don't know how to write songs with a baby because a lot of my songs are about like guys and sex and, you know, or coming from a place of, you know. So anyway, it was just really awkward. And then she kept I would suggest something and the husband would be like, yeah, I really like that. And then she'd say something and he'd be like, no, I don't like that. And I was like, oh my God, please stop doing that. Like, it was just very uncomfortable. And she walked away with the baby, I think with the baby, and I was like, you got your mother and it just kind of happened.
Like that. It just happens
well,
like that.
I was also in this relationship where, you know, we were having some issues and I don't know, something about that day and the kind of the friction and the tension sort of, I'm almost getting uneasy thinking about it. Like it's making me tweak.
Yeah, change the subject.
Yeah, so walk away. But I always, you know, I always wish I had changed this one line in it. It was,
which one?
I'm looking for attention. It shouldn't have been attention. It should have been intention, not another question. So every time I hear it, I'm like, oh, it doesn't even make sense.
You?
It doesn't really bug me, but I just think like, you know, I would have nailed one of my students on it.
That's hilarious. So what do your students think of your songs? Do you go through them and talk with do you bring them into class?
I mean, they're not really like relevant today because the type of writing is so different. I mean, they are and they aren't, but they're, you know, I think there's certain songs that I could say, all right, you could kind of approach a song that way. But like,
so you're saying the songwriting, the way the song is written is not relevant today, not that the song is.
No, the song's still relevant. I mean, it still plays on the radio, but I don't know that you could get away with that type of melody today. Like, things have happened, things have grown, and things have, you know, every generation of songwriters looks back to the music they grew up on, right? And that's part of what they're pulling from, but they're also adding their own spin. And, you know, things have changed a lot since I was writing songs. You know, I wrote for 20 years. So, I mean, think about anybody. Think of Elton John when he first started to now. You know, so I'm not sure, you know, there's certain things, of course, that still apply. Right. But I would say, like, Sober, I could still see kind of being relevant.
Okay, that's the next one we want to talk about. Sober by Pink.
I was completely wasted when I wrote that song. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
How apropos.
Yeah, because so Alicia and Pink and I had this really strange writing session a year and a half before where the president of her label was like, you need to reach out to this girl. She'll write hits for you. And like, you don't tell Pink that, right? She's like not interested to meet some girl who's going to write hits for her. Meanwhile, she'd already written all her hits that he said weren't hits.
Oh
and then
my
they came
gosh.
out and they were hits. But anyway, we had this weird kind of like session where I'm not sure we vibed so much, and I thought I blew it. And then a year and a half later, her manager called and was like, she wants to work with you. And I was like, oh my God.
Really?
And so I had a Pink day. I went out and just listened to all her music and got like my head around her, because the last time I was sort of busy kind of trying to come up with ideas and not realizing that for her it's such a personal experience.
Know her.
Yeah. And so when she came to the studio, we had this we cleared the air up, and then we just opened up a bottle of wine. And
See, there's that wine.
yeah, I
again.
mean,
We
she
needed
was
it.
like, she'd have a glass, and then I'd have a glass, and like, I'm not a big drinker, so within 3 glasses, I was like, I'm gonna throw up. Like, it's going down. But we wrote the song sober, and it's probably one of my favorite. I think she said too at one point that it was like one of her favorite sessions ever.
Was it because you were drunk that you were able to write a song called Sober, or would you have thought it? Do you think you would have thought of that?
Oh, I think it was really a song about facing your kind of demons, you know? But I think what was great about us working together that day is we were just so honest and present. And it was like,
And it opened up.
it was a perfect, just the whole day was just awesome. We were in Malibu. It was perfect. It was a perfect creative day. Like,
Nice.
and they don't come like that. You have to go through so many days to get to those.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
how often do those happen? Ain't No Other Man, Christina Aguilera.
Oh my God. Oh, Jesus. Christina was obsessed with this track. And it was like, do your thing, honey. And like at the beginning of the song, and she kept playing it and playing it. She's like, this is my single, this is my single. I was like, this is not your single, because it's so annoying. And that voice at the beginning is like really irritating. Can you stop playing it? I wanted to say to her. And I think I did tell her that, because I was pretty honest with Christina. You know, people were scared of Christina. I wasn't scared of Christina. I was just, she's feisty like me. So, but then I finally just gave up and sort of heard these melodies and started singing like, ain't no thing against it, you know. And then we wrote the song together, but it was really her who pushed me. I was so irritated that she would not listen to me, that this was not going to be her song, but I'm glad that she pushed me, because she was right.
That's awesome. And Taking Chances by Celine Dion.
Oh, Dave Stewart, one of my favorite people in the world. Yeah, he was listening to the wind chimes on my balcony while I was having furniture moved in, and I'm screaming, don't hit the walls! And he's like listening to the wind chimes. Do, 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 like the motif at the beginning. And I was like, don't know much about your life. You're gonna hit the walls. Don't know much about, like, it was this very strange kind of thing. And I think for me as a creator, when I wasn't thinking about, like when the pressure wasn't there to create a hit, or I was just letting something move me, I would have these ideas. And the fact that I was kind of present and not present at the same time, I felt open to this melody that I kept hearing. And so it was this very strange experience where I was like actually concentrating on this and that, and it almost allowed the melody to flow through in a really pure way. And when I used to write all the time, I would be on my computer until somebody played a chord that like stopped me from doing what I was doing. And it was almost the idea that I wasn't putting too much, the stress of just being with someone who's playing and you have to come up with something.
Right.
So, and I think I've had ADD my whole life, so there is this always ability that I'm doing a bunch of
can do
things.
both.
Yeah, and that when I'm not concentrating just on one thing, it opens up other things and me to hear other music or ideas.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of the way my brain works. I'm like a born multitasker.
Because a lot of people, you ask if lyrics or melody comes first, and so they'll always pick one or the other. They'll write the music and then put the lyrics to it, but you kind of do it
Oh, I
simultaneously.
mean, it happens in different ways. Sometimes it's that channel. You just walk in and you hear something, someone plays something, and all of a sudden I hear a lyric and a melody coming at me.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's very magical, but it all boils down to really, when I was in the height of my creating, I was kind of like a nerve ending. You know, I would just walk around and feel. I was like a feel junkie, an emotional junkie. And the more I felt things, the more things I had to pull from in the room. You know, the more relationships that I was in that maybe weren't that great, or, you know, just anything that made me feel. And I think it was interesting when I actually, like, when I got married and had a kid, part of why I didn't love writing anymore is I didn't want to live in that world anymore. You know, I didn't want to live in my kind of dysfunction, because for me that was sort of where I wrote my best songs.
When you found your dysfunction.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of live on
Peace.
the other side, yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So, what do you find to be the hardest part about songwriting? We could go through every one. I mean, we can be here for hours, but we're running out of time, so I can't go through any more
Yeah.
songs. But what do you find to be the hardest part about songwriting?
Definitely coming up with something that hasn't been said before. The lyrics, always the lyrics.
Yeah.
How do you say something in a unique way that makes people stop? It's like A, B, C, D, E, F, U, or even, you know, it's
So
it's that
clever.
idea,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So
Let me spell it out for you, you know?
We couldn't think of it, so let me spell it out. Because the topics are all the same, basically.
They're
You've got
always the
love
same.
and all
Yeah,
that
because we're
stuff.
humans, we only go
We
through,
all
I
feel
mean,
the
how many
same.
things are we going through? Yeah,
We all feel the same thing, and you have to figure
Exactly.
out a different way to.
definitely the
do it.
hardest.
So if you could give, actually, what's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten when coming up in songwriting or music or business?
It's more like the best piece of advice that I never followed.
Which was?
Blend in.
Interesting.
Like,
Why is that?
stand out, man.
Yeah.
Do not blend in. You do not want to blend in. It was when I was in a singing group, an a cappella group in high school, and they were like, you know, you really have to blend in. And I was like, you know what? I'm never going to blend in. I just don't blend in. I'm not good at blending in. I need to stand out. And that's really what it is. It's like, you know, I would have people say, you're too angry, you're too this, you're too that. Be too much of something.
Yeah. Isn't that what people want to do, is stand out and be noticed?
Yeah.
As opposed to
But, you know, this was 20 years
back
ago.
in the day, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't
Also,
speak out.
you know, I think the one thing I can say is the most important thing that you can do is work hard. If you want a career in music, you're going to work your ass off. Like, that's more, I think it's 60-40. You have to have talent, but if you can work really hard.
So they should be ready for
Yeah.
it. Good, good, good. So,
And do it all at the same time. You know, write,
Like you do.
perform. You gotta just, well, I mean, if you're an artist, don't just spend time in the studio writing
one
songs.
path.
Like, perform. Get your photos ready, get your visuals. Like, you got to do it all.
Yeah. Do you think songwriting is a progression into producing? Do you think it's kind of a natural?
Producing is way more focused on, I think, the sounds. Like, songwriting is like, oh, you write a song every other day or every day.
Yeah.
Production, you can spend a week on one song. So I think it's more focused in that way,
Yeah.
which is why I loved songwriting, because I could jump around a lot. Yeah.
So you've got Art House, you're working with Art House, and you've got your Bridge app coming up. Anything else you want to say about the Bridge app to get people on
No,
board?
I mean, I just, you can check out the community at Bridge app, BRIIDGE app, APP, and just kind of see what we're doing and download the beta and give us feedback. And, it's really there for creators to use, to meet each other. And also, we're hopefully doing a lot more music educational programming and just helping creatives.
Yeah.
That's really what the mission is.
That's great.
And finding new creatives.
Finding people, yeah.
Yeah.
Good, and that's great, because that's, like I said earlier, that's one of the biggest
Yeah.
questions we get is how do we meet
Yeah,
people?
you got to meet them through these
And here it is.
these kind of platforms.
And
So
you're doing it for them.
yeah,
Awesome.
trying.
Well,
now
thank you so
now
much.
I'm on tech startup. Who knew?
See, that's the next
Okay.
step in the progression.
Yeah, thank you so much. And
Thank
next
you.
time, bring some wine.
I absolutely will. Maybe
right.
2 bottles.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining us, and thank
Thank
you
you.
guys for tuning in to
Yep.
Off the Record Live. Again, we're coming from Art House Entertainment, and I am your host, Lisa Kinnicky, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.